Tamerlan Tsarnaev. FBI fumbles as it tries to cover up false flag asset Tamerlan Tsarnaev. Kurt Nemo's got an article that just breaks down the intelligence connections, all of it. The family's now saying the FBI called their son after the bombing and right before he was killed, that he was loaded in a car naked, that is indeed him, and then run over and then shot. Eyewitnesses are saying they saw that as well, ladies and gentlemen. This story is breaking up at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Mother of suspected bombers claims FBI called eldest son after bombing before fatal shootout. Congress exploits our fears to take our liberty. Ron Paul. Tsarnaev aunt claims naked man in video is Tamerlan. Shocking footage. Americans order out of homes at gunpoint by SWAT teams. I mean, I don't know. I mean, imagine Austin. There's a lone shooter out. I mean, one thing they said, we're shutting this building down. We think he's in it. They come to your house, say, come out with your hands up to everybody. I know. I'm done. This is totally unconstitutional. Now, I'm going to go to your calls in the next segment, I promise, and then we're going to get Joel Skousen to pop in with his take. But all the experts I trust, not just me, are saying this is a staged event. One thing I want to plug here before we look at what they're trying to ram through while we're busy in the media circus that is this quasi-staged event, bare minimum, WIWA in Jacksonville, St. Cloud, Florida. As of today, April 22nd, WIWA in Jacksonville, St. Cloud, Florida, will air the Alex Jones Show 24/7 via high-quality satellite stream. And you can pick up 24 hours a day the internet stream that they're going to feed to XDS satellite receivers as well. The station manager is Jerry Smith. So they are, and of course, there are some stations out there. There was one for a while in Seattle that does coast-to-coast AM 24/7. They got high ratings with that. And we've got a lot of stations that air us live, then again at night, because it just gets more and more popular. But this is great, so you can find out more. Guys, give me their website. I'll plug that too. WIWA in Jacksonville, Florida. And it might be good on these plug sheets if they give me the frequency. And hey, John, will you give me the frequency? I mean, I've given people the call letters, but hell, I can do it. I can go to Radio Locator and do it. It's like I'll get ad copy I'm going to write and say, here's your ad, and it just says the name. It's like, you write it. You know, you do everything, Jones. People want me to come, I guess, into the bathroom, become groom of the stool or something, too. I can do all the butt wiping around here. 11:60 a.m., ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me, David. That's a good way to introduce this hour. Family show, I apologize, folks. I'm not complaining. It's all the time. It's like, there, plug this new station. Oh, yes. Did you say 1630? Oh, 1160. 1160. See, because I got to get it live down my ear, you know. 1160. There you go, in Jacksonville, St. Cloud. Okay, shifting gears here with a quick update and report on what's being rammed through with our reporter David Knight while we're watching the martial law takeover conditioning.
Well, what we're looking at is a threat of imposing the Patriot Act on the Internet. Now, the House passed last Thursday the CISPA Act, which has been around before, and it was killed once before, along with PIPA and SOPA and the Cybersecurity Act of 2012. All those things have been brought up. All those things were defeated. But then as it was going through last Thursday, it was pretty amazing what happened in the House. There were a lot of amendments put in to try to protect privacy. They weren't even allowed to be debated. You had one amendment that said that they had to get a search warrant before they looked at people's private papers and their internet communications, which, of course, would comply with the Fourth Amendment. That, of course, was not allowed to come in. But we also had the chair of the House Committee on Homeland Security, Mike McCall, said, in the case of Boston, there were real bombs, but he said, we need to arm ourselves against digital bombs that are on their way. And so that's what they did to try to ram this through, because the other bills, most of them were set up around copyright issues. But now when they say security, the Republicans are just falling in line left and right. It has not passed the Senate yet, and Obama says he's not going to sign it, but of course he said that about the n.d.a.a., so we can't trust that. But it's been defeated in the past. And
they're also saying because of WikiLeaks they want it. WikiLeaks was a good thing, exposing their criminal activity.
Right.
So they're saying, hey, we want to keep covering up our criminal ops.
You can't talk about these efforts to try to keep the Internet free without talking about Aaron Swartz. Aaron Swartz died in the middle of January. He was just 26. He was under indictment by this same U.S. attorney that's going to be trying these bombers in Boston. and she threw the book at him. Local prosecutors were just going to let him go as a misdemeanor charge. She put 13 felony charges on him and had him looking at a 35-year sentence. She got a lot of criticism because a lot of people said that she drove him to suicide, but I'm not so sure that he committed suicide.
Yeah, folks, when you hang yourself in a jail cell, there's a good chance you were murdered.
Right. Well, he basically, to defend Carmen Ortiz, her husband did a tweet that said that she had offered him a 6-month deal, and he turned it down. Not that he was looking at a 35-year sentence. That Twitter account has subsequently been taken down, but that information got out, and there were screenshots of it. People got that from the archives. Also, he was under indictment after he was still fighting these SOPA, PIPA, CISPA acts, even after he was under indictment. This guy was a fighter. He was not somebody that's just going to, kill himself in despair. I don't believe.
Of course they murdered him.
But
that's what they did.
Let's look at a couple of clips from him. The first one talks about some of the technical issues with cybersecurity. It's just about 30 seconds. Can we go to that clip?
I think it's really important that we stop cyber attacks. And the way to do that is to make our cyber systems more secure, to close the vulnerabilities that allow attackers to get in. But the problem is the government's doing the opposite. They are funding the creation of vulnerabilities. They are offering rewards for people to find and build vulnerabilities into the system and give it to the U.S. government so then the U.S. government can launch cyber attacks on other countries.
Now, did you get that? He said the real problem with cybersecurity is that the government is creating and funding them. Our government is creating and funding them.
3 years ago, Kurt Nimmo wrote an article where the head of cybersecurity at the Pentagon, because it's already going, I mean, they're just trying to get statutory authority, said, we're launching cyber attacks, we're doing this, we're building back doors. That's why they say the Chinese chips in our missiles and stuff, it's not our missiles, it's globalist missiles, have these back doors because that was ordered in the specs. Everything has back doors.
Absolutely. And like you said before, they basically have to tell, in the same way they have to tell people when they're going to pull something off. They also seem to, even though they directly violate the Constitution, they are definitely trying to get this passed as a law, even though the law is unconstitutional. They feel that if they can get a law passed, and if they can get the Supreme Court to sign off on it, just like Acevedo was saying about gun control, he says, it doesn't matter what the Constitution says or what the constitutional sheriffs say. If the Congress passes a law and the Supreme Court says we're fine with that, that trumps the Constitution. That essentially amends or nullifies the Constitution. So they're really pushing on this. But the question is, what does this bill do? How does it violate the Fourth Amendment? Well, even though it's our own government that is funding and creating these attacks, these vulnerabilities, as Aaron Schwartz pointed out, they're using this to come in and get information about you they're going to use it to get information about you from Facebook and Twitter. And they're going to do it in a devious way. Instead of the government coming in and saying, we want that information, they're going to provide liability protection to Facebook and Twitter and any corporation to voluntarily hand over that information to the FBI.
And, I've been saying this since they told us in 2001. I was reading the minutes of the Internet 2 meeting. I think it was in London that year. They've had it in Austin and Tokyo and other places. And they said, in the future, we're going to shut off the old web, but we're going to phase it into Internet 2, where it's only institutions and big corporations. You'll have to waive your rights to be on it, and then there'll be no freedom because you've got to waive it to be on it, but we're going to kill the old web. And that's the plan. They force you onto these pretty much government creations like Zuckerberg's, where he said they're dumb effers. He's at Bilderberg Group, Google, all this, and then you're on it. And then it says you have no rights, and so everything you're doing is spied on. Plus, when you sign a contract to be on the cloud, everything you're doing isn't yours now. Well,
this will also negate any privacy agreements that have been out there between Facebook and users or Twitter and users. Anything that's out there, any agreement to protect your privacy will be null and void if CISPA goes through.
So it gives them liability protection.
Exactly. And so CISPA supporters are outspending people who are opposing it by 140 to 1. $605 million to push this thing through, $605 million versus only $4 million to try to stop it.
And it's big defense contractors. Tell them about that. Up to $10 billion per company just to spy on us.
Right. Well, Mike Rogers, the $10 billion figure comes from Mike Rogers' wife. Now, Mike Rogers is the congressman that's really spearheaded this. He reintroduced CISPA 1 month after Aaron Schwartz died. And his wife is recently was the CEO and president of Aegis Incorporated. And they just got a $10 billion contract with the State Department. Now, Aegis...
That's an offshore creep factory.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is the organization that had more soldiers on the ground, private soldiers, mercenary soldiers on the ground than the British had troops in Iraq.
Yeah, so it's a bunch of foreign merc companies are taking over the web right now.
Right. And Roger's wife, who was the former CEO and president, she just recently left, she's around doing speeches on cyber security and that sort of thing. So she's jumping on that bandwagon. And again, like I said, this is a contract going to the State Department. But let's take a look at the second clip that we've got from Aaron Swartz. Can we play that clip right now? It gives us kind of an insight into what Congress's mindset is on this.
Go ahead.
I was at an event and I got introduced to a U.S. senator, one of the strong proponents of the original COICA bill. And I asked him why, despite being such a strong progressive, despite having just given a speech in favor of civil liberties, he was supporting a bill that would censor the internet. And that typical politician smile faded from his face, and his eyes started burning this fiery red, and he started shouting. "Those people on the internet," he yelled, "they think they can get away with anything. They think they can just put anything up, and there's nothing we can do to stop them. They put up everything. They put up the plans to our fighter jets, and they just laugh at us. Well, we're going to show them. There's going to be laws on the internet. It's got to be under control." Now, as far as I know, no one has ever put up the plans to U.S. fighter jets on the internet. I mean, that's just something I've heard about. But that's sort of the point. I mean, it wasn't a rational concern. It was this irrational fear that things were out of control.
All right, hit pause.
Here was this man, a United States senator.
We're going to come back and finish this clip.
I'm Darren McBreen, and these are some of the new items that are available now at InfoWarsShop.com.
Alert the public to Obama's blatant abuse of power with the new Obama t-shirt. Obama's Joker face on the front and "Come and Take It" on the back. It's time to publicly call him out for what he is, a tyrant. Defend the Second Amendment with our top seller "Come and Take It" t-shirts. And look at that, women's cut tank tops and t-shirts now available. Nice hat. Plus the "Don't Tread on Me" flag. And now you can become a micro distributor of the InfoWars magazine. Plus, get your own copy delivered right to your door each and every month. And if you're tired, like I am, of you and your family being exposed to polluted drinking water, get the Pro One high-performance water filter. It gets rid of all pathogenic bacteria, cyst, fluoride, heavy metals, and numerous other contaminants.
So join the revolution at InfoWarsShop.com.
All right, going back to David Knight here with us, Infowars.com, nightly news reporter. The full clip we're going to play on the nightly news tonight when you do another piece on this, but there's a lot of these clips. Aaron Swartz was a leader, and he was a real liberal, not one of these fake tyrants. And absolutely, the globalists are already stealing money left and right, $85 billion a month. All of this is happening. All of this is going on. They're getting away with everything, but they realize the public is finding out what liars they are, so they want to censor the web. But isn't the genie already out of the bottle?
Well, people are waking up, and what I was going to show from that clip was that Aaron Swartz kind of woke up. Here was a guy that he thought was on his side because he kind of bought into this left-right paradigm. It's like, oh, this guy's a good liberal, and so therefore he cares about civil liberties. And he was surprised to see the anger and the hatred in that guy's attitude when he started talking about, oh, these people on the internet, they're absolutely out of control. Exactly what we saw in these press conferences last week where they said, don't look at anything except what we give you. Right? And we heard that again.
They actually said, only look at what we give you.
Right. And we heard
And they're in the news saying it's bad that citizens can look at photos.
And we heard that at Sandy Hook as well. They want absolute total control of the flow of information as well as control over your
Yeah, the internet's meant to surveil us, not allow us to surveil them.
Absolutely. And so he woke up to this and he said, you know, this was not somebody weighing the pluses and minuses of what would be good policy as he would think from a liberal perspective. He said, this is the attitude of a tyrant. That's the way he ends that clip. This is the attitude of a tyrant. And so what we're hoping is that people on the left as well as people on the right who would not typically care about this, because a lot of times when you mention security and you see a lot of the same people who are fighting so hard to stop the government from taking their Second Amendment rights, they're not really interested in CISPA. That's not really their issue, or civil liberties.
Because they think, well, I've done nothing wrong. So what if they surveil me? The government's run by foreign banks and mercenary groups. They want to use it to plant stuff on you, to control you. You're like, well, why is it wrong if they went door to door and made people come out with their hands up? What's wrong with that? If they can do that, they can condition people for the door-to-door gun confiscation. If you're like, well, what do I have to hide if the troops check my bag again and look at my papers? I'm a good guy. What if they're on a bad mission? There's a reason we have a Bill of Rights and Constitution and checks and balances, because it will always be used to abuse us.
And it's not about things like a fighter jet plans being put out there. It's about things like State Department memos being leaked by WikiLeaks that show their criminal actions of what they've been planning.
Yeah, they don't want it out with, exactly, they don't want them going, we're criminals and murder these people and, yeah, torture these people and torture their families, and we do the criminal now, the unconstitutional later.
That's right. Exactly. That's the memo that came out from Henry Kissinger. We do the illegal, we do immediately. The unconstitutional takes a little while longer. That came out in WikiLeaks. They don't want you to see that kind of stuff. So that's why they want to get a gag around the internet. That's why they wanted to get their hands around the throat of the internet and stop this kind of stuff.
Hey, people in the federal government, they had a colonel the week before 9/11 write an article in the Washington Post saying the government may stage a terror attack, trying to warn people. A year before 9/11, they accidentally declassified in the stacks Northwoods. They're trying to warn us. There's good people in there. And look at how they're going after all the whistleblowers.
Right. Oh, yeah. Back in North Carolina, Senator Richard Burr, before I came out here, he put in a bill specifically to go after whistleblowers. Very harsh penalties for whistleblowers. They're trying to shut this down. And even if you don't have anything to hide, they have something to hide, and we need to know.
Hey, they're calling whistleblowing. They're wanting to put you in jail if you. It's basically making everything in government classified.
Yes.
And then, well, you've seen them, the cops trying to put people in jail for life if you film them in public.
Right.
The government is out of control. It's the danger.
Right.
And it uses these stages in 1 minute. What do you make now of the Boston stuff?
Well, the pattern of the younger brother just doesn't look like he's somebody that was involved in this, that he knew what was going on. I mean, he's tweeting after this happened. He's going to a party Thursday night. They went on the run after their pictures were put up that they were being looked at.
And now it looks like they arrested the brother and executed him.
Right. And it didn't make any sense looking at the early pictures. His attitude with his cap flipped back, not trying to hide his face, his backpack the wrong color and everything. And now we see all this stuff about how they pumped the boat like full of lead, just like they did Bonnie and Clyde or something. I mean, it's very suspicious.
And then he gets out and is able to get out, but minutes later, he's almost dead. He can't.
Right. Yeah, it looks like he's walking, and then, exactly, they've got pictures of it. It looks like they walked him out of the boat, and then he's close to death the next time you see him. Just like the brother, it appears, might have been the one who was the naked man in the video, and then all of a sudden he's riddled with bullets and run over and that sort of thing, or turns up dead.
Yeah, I mean, look at how they burned up Dorner and lied about it. I mean, there's no telling. And again, it's the classic cover-up. I had tried everything. I'd cut back the amount of food I was eating. I was lifting weights and jogging, but nothing was working. My body was literally starving for minerals and trace elements as well as key vitamins. And as soon as I had that, I immediately could eat half of what I was eating previously and be satisfied. Now, there are hundreds of great products at InfoWarsTeam.com, but I want to point out the 3 that have helped me lose 37 pounds in just 2 months. Products like Beyond Tangy Tangerine, Pollen Burst, and Rebound. When I started taking the Tangy Tangerine and other products every day, I lost more than 37 pounds in just 2 months. Now that's results. I want to challenge my listeners to go to InfoWarsTeam.com and to order just 3 of their products, and you will see the changes in the way you look, feel, and in your appetite almost immediately. Start your journey to health and wellness today. InfoWarsTeam.com. Now it's got more signs than ever. We know there was a drill. We know they lied about that. We know they had a bunch of patsies on scene. As of Wednesday, they were going to go with its right-wingers. And they had White House people out saying, yeah, that's who it's going to be. Wait the next day. There's going to be something big happen. And they flipped the script. And it looks like set up some of their patsies who they may have actually had plant the bombs, which is a good lesson to you out there, like Tim McVeigh and others. You do not want to be part of this. They will set you up in a minute. McVeigh was real mad about the mission and told Terry Nichols and others about it about a week before. But he still went ahead with it because he was under orders. And you know what they did to him? Same thing with Lee Harvey Oswald. And now it's just hands down the FBI knew who they were when they put their picture up. And then called them up, if the mother's accurate, and said, we're going to come on by and get you. And then they, for whatever reason, drugged him up or had already shot him, laid him out, ran over him, and then shot him up a bunch more. And then they wanted that other brother bad. And they tried to kill him. But media had gotten their cameras on it, so they were unable, after shooting hundreds of rounds into it, when he actually got up, oh, my goodness, you know, he's unarmed with his hands up. Don't worry, we'll get him in the tent. Get medical personnel over here to help him out. But it was a little too obvious if he'd have died on the spot. They made the call, hey, the kid doesn't know the whole story. We'll try him. Suspect charged in Boston bombing case, still in serious condition with gunshot wounds, was arraigned in the hospital Monday on federal charges in connection with Boston Marathon. And he wasn't given Miranda so far and is, quote, drugged being asked questions. You could put somebody on Halcyon and say, hey, you committed murders, didn't you? Yeah, I did. And you're Superman, too, aren't you? Yeah, I am. And you're also a Keebler elf, right? Yeah, I am. Live in that big green tree. I mean, they now drug up the Aurora shooter for trial. I mean, just give me a break. I guess North Vietnam drugging our pilots was good then. Let's go to Julio in Illinois. Then we got our guest coming on. Go ahead, Julio.
Oh, man, Alex, it's kind of comical and sad at the same time watching the narrative, this continuous narrative being thrown at us by Big Brother and the corporate media. You know, if this were a movie, it would be kind of like a sick comedy because the public knows what's going on. Well, most of the public, I should say. And yet the Big Brother's throwing this narrative at us. They shut down a big metropolitan city like Boston for a 19-year-old kid. I mean, that's a joke. For them to throw this narrative at us, I remember I stood up all night Thursday night into Friday morning, and they said the naked guy was suspect number one, initial reports. And then within a half hour to an hour, oh, wait, it's not him. It was just someone else. They wanted him naked because he may have had bomb residue on him. And, Alex, quickly, I called your show. You interviewed me last July after the TSA and Amtrak police followed me after I released the video.
Yeah, they said you cannot fill them on the streets of Chicago. Yes.
Right. I mentioned a document from Homeland Security and Homeland Security and the FBI. They did a roll call after the Aurora shootings about how they were going to be bombings at large gatherings. And here we are a year later, and then boom, it happens. This is a false flag. They tell us what happens years beforehand, just like Operation Amalgam Virgo, 2 months, 10 days before 9/11. Bin Laden's picture on the document of an exercise that happened on 9/11. It's the same thing. They're telling us in advance what's going to happen. They tell the police, they get everything ready. It happens, and, oh, now we have to give up more rights, as Peter King of New York tells us, or Miss Lindsey Graham.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what really tells you what's happening is the police think we're such animals. They now do proctology exams on the side of the street in Austin, Texas, and other areas, or the state police do on the highway with the same glove, multiple women. 4 orifices, just off-the-chart stuff. And now in Boston, the videos are emerging where they would just go door to door and say, come out, and have families, you know, with their children, you name it, come out with their hands up, and the cops would get in their face and grab on them. And I'm telling you, it's illegal, it's unlawful, it's martial law. And they call it security. They call it national security. And, yes, you were on as a guest reporting for We Are Change. With all the footage that made the news, where the TSA is on the streets now saying you can't film them as they search people's bags and stuff without warrants. And it's just all part of the new government takeover where they're the new class, they're the new God, and it's all part of the conditioning. And this is what they train kids in public schools during drills, to come out with their hands up. And again, even if you look nothing like the people, just door to door, I mean, it's so pathetic. And hey, don't worry, cops. The globalists are doing this to take your pension funds. They're doing this, getting us ready for the financial collapse. And through that, we're supposed to all become collectivized and go on food stamps and stuff. But, I mean, I'm here to tell you, it's illegal. And if anybody would have said no, they'd have blown your house up, burned it down like Dorner, and said you were a terrorist. Good, that's more people for them to show off with and act like they're heroes and go after your family. Now, again, a lot of police are listeners of this show. And a lot of departments wouldn't act like this. But Boston is a town that I don't even want to enter because it's so creepy. And I mean, the police look like Fred Flintstone. And of course, after the lockdown ended, somebody found the guy in the boat because he could go outside now. And, of course, it was outside the lockdown. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.